At age 5, a little Nigerian girl was abused by her neighbor and school teachers. At age 12, she experienced an extreme case of violence from her father. This launched her into several years of trauma, pain, sleepless nights, nightmares, suicide attempts, and fear. Over a decade later, that little girl stands before you, fighting to protect and rehabilitate women and girls from violence in Nigeria. My name is Wuraoluwa Ayodele, and I am one of every 3 women in Nigeria that has experienced violence. I am a lawyer, women's rights advocate, and founder of Women Safe House Sustainers Initiative, the first women-based organization in Nigeria that provides shelter, legal aid, healthcare, and financial sustenance for women and girls facing gender-based violence. I am lucky to be alive here today. 13-year-old Ochanya from Benue State, Nigeria, was not so lucky. She was raped severally by her uncle and his son over a period of 5 years. She died as a result of the rape in October last year. She stayed with her abusers because she had nowhere to go. Our whole community turned out for her burial, and they should have been there for her while she was alive, but they weren't. There are over 100 million women and girls in Nigeria, and about 66 million of these women have been victims of different forms of violence, ranging from intimate partner violence to rape, female genital mutilation, child marriage. The list is endless. More than a third of these women have died from violence, especially in conflict areas plagued by the Boko Haram insurgency and other terrorist attacks. Several others live with their abusers in fear of the isolation that our patriarchal system, primitive cultural practices, religious beliefs, communities, and government agencies have created. I focus on creating a safe space for these millions of women to recover and re-enter society. I run a shelter for women and girls where I help rehabilitate them from violence in Nigeria. Over the last 12 months, about 500 women have been beneficiaries of my work on the shelter, having access to free accommodation, feeding, healthcare, legal aid, counseling, financial sustenance. Even with very limited resources that I have, hundreds of these women have been able to recover and get back on their feet and become useful members of the society through my work. Yet, several women and girls, bruised and traumatized, remain on the waiting list to get into the shelter. With the right collaboration, I can do much more to support these women. My heart breaks each time I receive women who have been flogged, mutilated, brutalized, and are bleeding at my shelter without having the right and sufficient support for them. While we would not relent in suppressing our evil, violent practices against women in Nigeria, I believe it is our collective responsibility to ensure that our women survive and recover from gender-based violence. My goal is to help 10,000 women and girls recover from violence before the end of the year 2020. I ask you to join me, help protect these women and girls from violence. Help me transform a victim to a survivor of violence in Nigeria today. Thank you.